In this video, we are going to graph a couple of exponential functions. I actually put this backwards, kids. I should have put the parent function first. But we're going to graph the parent function first. So to graph it, all I'm going to do is make an XY table. And I'll just put a few points in here. X, Y. And I'm going to put a -1, and then I'm going to put a 0 and a 1, and I'm squeezing in here a 2. All right. So what is 2 to the -1? Well, remember, instead of saying 2 over 1, I have to, when it's a negative exponent, I just flip it upside down so that it becomes 1 over 2. So this is 1 over 2. What is 2 to the 0 power? Do you remember this? That's 1. What is 2? You see what we're doing? We're putting these x numbers in for the x. You see that? So what is 2 to the 1 power? Well, that's just 2. And what is 2 to the 2nd power? Well, that's 4. Okay, so that is the parent function. All right, so let's see if I can graph this. So when x equals -1, y equals 1/2. So I'm just going to come up here and put a dot. Can you see that? Probably not. Anyway, when x equals 1 or 0, y equals 1. When x equals 1, y equals 2. And then when x equals 2, y equals 4. You know what? I'm going to add something else on here. I just want to show you. When x equals 3, y is going to equal, so 2 to the 3rd power, 2 times 2 times 2, it's going to be 8. So when x equals 3, y is going to be way up here, way up like this. All right, do you see that? So, by the way, if I had gone farther this way, what if I had said -2? -2, if y is -2, or if x is -2, then 2 to the -2 means 1. Well, it means 1/4 because it means, it means that you flip this upside down. It means that you have to go 1 over 2 to the 2nd power. So it's 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4. So this would be, if it was -2, it would be 1/4. And this line, you'll find out, just gets it gets closer and closer to this, but it never goes beyond, it never goes down past it. All right, so I'm going to connect these dots if I can. And this is the parent function. This is the parent exponential function. Now you need to put this in your notes right here. This is the parent function of the equation. Now we're gonna change it a little. We're going to because look what we're doing. We're going to make it a taller, skinnier, it's going to go up faster. So here we're going to make the same thing again. I am going to start down here on -2 so you can see what happens. -1, 0, 1, and we'll add one more here, 2. All right, now we have 4 times 2 to the x power. All right, now what is 2 to the -2 power? Well, remember, that's 1/4. Well, what is 4 over 1 times 1 over 4? Well, that just equals 4 over 4, which equals 1. So when x is -2, y is going to be 1. What about when x is -1? What happens to that 2 when x is -1? What happens to that? It turns into a fraction 1 over 2. Well, what is 4 times 1? What's half of 4? It's just 2. Okay, just 2. What happens when x is 0? 4 times 2 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. What's 4 times 1? 4. Okay. What is 4 times 2 to the first power? What's 2 to the first power? Just plain old 2. What's 4 times 2? 8. But you see how these numbers are going up, up, up? What happens when it's to the second power? What happens when it's 4 times 2 to the second power? Well, 2 to the second power is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. I'll tell you right now, it's not even going to be on our graph. Okay, that's that. Let's graph it. So when x is -2, y is 1. When x is -1, y is 2. When x is 0, y is 4. Do you see how this is going up so steep? When x is 1, y is 8. And then when x is 2, I mean, it's off the chart. Okay? So this is I should have done this in a different color. This is the parent function. This is 2 to the x power, but this is 4 times 2 to the x. Now, you can see what's happening here. And by the way, if I went -3, -4, -5, this line would keep coming down here like this and go like this. And this line is doing the same thing. Okay? And that's what it does. So the initial parent function, I want you to know this initial parent function. I want you to be able to graph it. I'll have you do quizzes on this a bunch of times this year. I will say graph the parent exponential function, and this is what you'll graph. Okay? But the 4 means that it's going to go up at a more steep rate. All right? All right, what if I have, I'm going to erase this a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing here. What if I say f of x equals -1/2 to the x power? All right, we're going to graph this as well. So I'm going to make an XY chart here. XY, and when x is -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Okay. All right, now we have -1/2 to the x power. Whoops, I have to go like this, guys. All right, so now I'm going to have -1/2 to the -1 power, and excuse me, the -2 power, hello. All right, now this will turn into, so this I flip upside down, so then I have -2 squared, because I flip this upside down and then this negative goes away. So 2 squared is 4, and I throw on the negative, so it's negative 4. You get that? All right, the next one is negative 1, and I have to put in parentheses 1/2 to the negative 1. All right, so if I have this, all this means when I have a negative, I just flip it. So it's 2 over 1, 2 over 1, which is just 2, and the negative goes away. Now 2 to the 1 is just 2, and I put a negative in front of it, so it's negative 2. Okie dokie. Now I have negative 1/2 to the 0 power. Well, that's just going to be, this is going to be 1, but I have a negative here that I have to throw in. Do you see why I have this negative on the outside each time of my parentheses? Otherwise it wouldn't work. So that's a negative 1. Whoops, I erased my thing. Negative 1/2 to the x power. Okay, so if I have negative 1/2 to the first power, well, that's just 1/2, and I throw on the negative, it's negative 1/2. Negative 1/2, whoops. And then to the second power, 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. I throw on the negative, and it's negative 1/4. Now, I'm going to graph this on the same paper that I graphed the other ones on, all right? All right, so when x is negative 2, y is negative 4. When x is negative 1, y is negative 2. When x is 0, y is negative 1. When x is 1, y is negative 1/2. When x is 2, y is negative 1/4. Now, let me show you what's going to happen with this deal. This is going to start going like this, and it's going to go as close as it can to this line, but it's never going to go over it. It's never going to go over it. So when you have a negative exponential function, it's going to be going like that. Okay? But guys, all you have to do is make an XY table, and you don't have to memorize this kind of stuff. So this is f of x equals negative 1/2. Whoops! Negative parentheses 1/2 to the x power. I mean, you just don't have to memorize a whole bunch of that stuff. All right? This is less than the whole number. The whole numbers were going up like this. The less than 1 will be going down here like this.